This program is rated PG. It contains themes and scenes which may not be suitable for very young audiences. Parental guidance is advised.
Greetings from the Philippines to the world. We are on Facebook Live on Eagle News and also on our streaming site, eaglenewslive.com. Watch us on our YouTube channel at Eagle News. I am Cesar Vallejos. Welcome to Open for Business. Join me, discover the latest news and information in business around the world. Stay ahead of the curve from vision to action. Open for Business was at the Blockchain 2020 Kickoff Summit organized and hosted by Asia Token Fund, Blocktide's Block PR Asia, held recently at the Conrad, Manila. Around 300 delegates attended the summit composed of government officials, tech developers, and over 100 tech students from different colleges. The organizers' mission is to push for mass adoption of blockchain technology and to create and spread awareness of this emerging technology. Before we show some of our interviews from the Blockchain 2020 Kickoff Summit, here's some of the business news this week. President Donald Trump tore into environmental prophets of doom at the Davos Forum, rejecting fiery warnings from teenage campaigner Greta Thunberg. The 50th meeting of the World Economic Forum aimed for a strong focus on climate change, but Trump made clear he had no time for Thunberg's warning that our house is still on fire. Instead, he touted the U.S. economy, which he said was enjoying an unprecedented boom thanks to his policies, dismissing scientifically backed warnings that global warming is wrecking the planet. Trump said we must reject the perennial prophets of doom and their predictions of the apocalypse. He claimed that alarmists had been wrong over the decades when predicting population crisis, mass starvation, or the end of oil. Trump branded those warning of out-of-control global warming and other environmental disasters the heirs of yesterday's foolish fortune tellers. Earlier, Thunberg underlined the message that has inspired millions around the world, saying basically nothing has been done to fight climate change. Thunberg acknowledged that her campaign, which began with school strikes, had attracted huge attention without yet achieving concrete change. And despite the focus given by the Davos Forum, Greenpeace said in a new report that some of the world's biggest banks, insurers, and pension funds have collectively invested $1.4 trillion in fossil fuel companies since the Paris climate deal in 2016. Trump touted the United States as the #1 producer of oil and natural gas and said he would not let radical socialists attack the lucrative industry. Sustainability is the buzzword at the Davos Forum, with heel crampons handed out to participants to encourage them to walk on the icy streets rather than use cars and the signage paint made from seaweed. Business leaders are likely also to be concerned by the state of the global economy, whose prospects, according to the International Monetary Fund, have improved but remain brittle. The IMF cut its global growth estimate for 2020 to 3.3%, saying that a recent truce in the trade war between China and the US had brought some stability, but that risks remain. Activists, meanwhile, will be pressing for much more concrete action to fight inequality after Oxfam issued a report outlining how the number of billionaires has doubled in the past decade, and the world's 22 richest men now have more wealth than all the women in Africa. China warns the virus could mutate, spread as death toll rises. A new virus that has killed 9 people, infected hundreds, and already reached the United States could mutate and spread, China warned Wednesday, as authorities scrambled to contain the disease during the Lunar New Year travel season. The coronavirus has caused alarm for its similarity to SARS, or the Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome, which killed nearly 650 people across mainland China and Hong Kong in 2002 up to 2003. In Wuhan, the epicenter of the outbreak, authorities canceled large public events and urged visitors to stay away, telling residents not to leave the central Chinese city of 11 million people. The illness is mainly transmitted via the respiratory tract, and there is the possibility of viral mutation and further spread of the disease. National Health Commission Vice Minister Li Bin said at a news conference in Beijing, the World Health Organization will determine whether to declare a rare global public health emergency over the disease which has now been detected in the United States, Taiwan, Thailand, Japan, South Korea, and Macau. Open for Business will be back. Stay with us.
In Good Shape, your weekly health show on DW that covers many aspects of healthcare. We look at what's new in medical treatment, nutrition, fitness, and beauty. We discuss these topics in depth with specialists.
Ito po ang mga dapat niyong abangan. Actually, hinahanap ko ang mga kasama ko. Nasaan na ba sila? Ang lahat ng yan dito pa rin sa programang punong-puno ng pagmamahal, Moments!
Asia Token Fund, Block Tides, and Block PR Asia, in its recap of the Blockchain 2020 Kickoff Summit, said that blockchain technology can enhance the basic services that are essential in trade finance. Blockchain relies on a decentralized, digitalized, and distributed ledger model. To simplify it further, the organizers compared blockchain technology to a Google Doc. When you create a document and share it with a group of people, the document is distributed instead of copied or transferred. Here are some of the thoughts from organizers and key delegates at the Blockchain 2020 Kickoff Summit.
Blockchain is not yet familiarized here in the Philippines. So I'm making the move and engaging everyone for mass adoption. Like, I'm going to invite students, going to invite all the key leaders when it comes to blockchain and what they know so they can share. So it's just like creating awareness. It's gonna grow bigger because as you can see that you can buy Bitcoins in 7-Eleven already by using Coins page. So it's really evolving. It will take time. It is there, but it will take time. And I believe the reason why I invite students because I also empower youth, not just women. So in technology, so we really need to create that impact or move for us to encourage a lot of women to participate or join the movement when it comes to blockchain. Just don't give up and believe in blockchain. It's not yet there for mass adoption because there's a lot of work to do. You can see that, right? It's just like a baby, so it will take time to grow. But at least there's a lot of people interested in participating in blockchain. At least there's a movement there, so we can also promote that. We ourselves are the best part in creating that awareness.
Blockchain has a lot of potential, all right, because it's something that is it's a game changer. Crisis after crisis that the world economy has faced, hyperinflation, the boom and bust, the bubble bursting, the fiat currency being backed up before with the gold, but now not anymore. So people are printing money. So anytime, people are just printing money for the sake of covering their credits, which is not really secured. and eventually the dictates of a very few elites would cause the plunder in not only the national economy but the global economy. Now, the blockchain concept, wherein it deals with distributed data processing, has already been running for decades and has been formalized in this format, wherein everybody has data encrypted and authenticated, and ensures transparency and uniformity, somewhat balances the non-transparency of the present economic model. However, for the longest time, centuries over, the evolution of trade, starting from commodities as a barter, spices against precious metals, etc., and later on to minting coins, rubles, etc., and making a standard, has evolved through time and has already come up some level of maturity. Where we are right now, as far as blockchain, we are in the new frontier of, let's say, the digital cyberspace, the digital space, wherein eventually the next generation will probably inherit a dysfunctional system, thanks to the present leaders of the world economy now, that's going to make sure it's going to collapse someday, sooner or later. Or B, once the collapse does happen, something to revive and resuscitate trade and commerce would be blockchain. Adapting it for a cryptocurrency would be light years away from the common Tao. But using the same principle of blockchain in an electoral system, where election becomes a currency, wherein the vote becomes a currency, and they see the value of its efficiency and effectiveness, then probably people will embrace the platform. Now, where are we as far as the electoral reform is concerned? We are under an automated election system. But then people have doubts whether the results is reliable, trustworthy, because it's also controlled by a few groups of people. Wherein if you have money, you can practically change the results. But using blockchain, let's say for a referendum or a plebiscite, where everybody is a registered voter, and by districts, and they're all accounted for by the blockchain. You have your own digital signature, you have your own identification authenticated by the transparency by a code. When you execute your vote, you only vote once. You don't have to, and because that is accounted for, you have your own ledger, then probably the results would pertain to that is really the voice of the people. That becomes more democratic. Now, you can also confine blockchain within your sovereign states. As explained earlier, there are some parameters that you can design the technology wherein you can only keep it within your territory, not only in your jurisdiction, but even as low as a community, even a barangay. The present enterprise, the present market, the free enterprise as they call it, it will be a tall order for the blockchain to penetrate, especially with the capitalist system that's in existence. But if you adopt the cooperative system in a more wider scale, and you put the layer of blockchain, so every cooperative would trade, going back to the barter principle, exchange raw materials with another processor to convert that raw material into a finished product and trade it among themselves. Blockchain seems to be another model for the cooperative system versus a capitalist system. And that way, that will be more transparent, because under the cooperative system, no matter how much you invest into the cooperative, you're just entitled to one vote. Unlike in a capitalist system, if you put in tons of money into one cooperative, you become the majority. Here, it's not a rule of how much you put in, it's a rule of those who are a member of the cooperative. So there is equal participation. And to me, if they mature, if they further improve the processing of cooperative right now in that direction, especially in accounting, in bookkeeping, in maintaining the balance. They have already done the necessary incentives in tax and all of that. They have already done the laws behind it. If they can mature this process, blockchain would be a natural mechanism or medium of exchange in that sector. And I see there a brighter future than the present capitalist system. And let's not forget, cooperatives are also open to credit cooperatives. They're also into cooperative banking. So the principle of commerce, as we all know, can also enter into the cooperative system. And then you bring in e-commerce into the cooperative system, then you got a better system. So more equal balance. And I would see the future of that would generate more wealth in the greater majority.
Well, I'm real excited with the technology opportunity. We've been in kind of the service side in terms of the BPO space, but been getting more involved in blockchain opportunities. See a great potential in using some of the emerging technology, and we call it impact technology, when you start to use it to be able to change society and build more inclusive, sustainable solutions to do that. And so we've been focusing in that area. That led us into other like-minded individuals, and we formed a new society called the Sit-Up Society to be able to take and aggregate a lot of impact technology opportunities with IoT, AI, blockchain, process automation, robotics, to be able to leverage a lot of technical solutions for more inclusive, sustainable growth for society. So exploit that. And so through technology, through fundraising, using digital assets, formal, asset-backed assets, they're going to be raising funds to do economic development of that, and then put them on a blockchain platform to be able to do banking, exchange of value type of platform, and also tracking from farm to table the products that they're going to be harvesting to do that, and do that all on the blockchain with supply management capabilities. So I think a starting point certainly for us in working with indigenous people is actually digital identity. First, it's to register their identity, and so part of the national identity program here in the Philippines, which is really just a physical identity that eventually is going to be digitized. And so we're hoping to be part of the early pilot program with the government to do that, and get the citizens initially registered. So once they get registered, now that gives them entitlements to the basic government services from education, health, to do that. And so every other delivery vehicle within the government sector can gain from automation using blockchain technology to do that. Because I always tell
the market mostly are coming from the influx of the OFWs. Don't forget that every household, at least one, is actually based abroad, send money overseas to here. So that's also one aspect that where an opportunity comes in. But I think really the fintech hasn't really solved this type of issue, because, for example, people would still go to kiosk. For example, if you're in UAE, wherein there's MoneyGram, for example, it's easier. It's easier, and then your loved one can simply get it in a pawn shop. But in here, there are definitely big players, like you know those, naman. But I think they are actually focusing on a different segment of businesses. So in a way, I don't really see it competing, so long as you are occupying a special niche in the market.
So your special niche now, Jake, are the OFWs?
No. Not really.
Okay, so we're
going into that direction. Now our branding kasi is called One Cash.
Okay.
One is actually appropriate for all types of Filipinos, whether you are marginalized or whether you're in that cream of the crop in the society. No, at least with One Cash, we intend to make all sari-sari stores to be inclusive. Because look at it, every people in the Philippines would still go to palengke, right, just to transact something, but it is in the mindset already of Filipinos that what if I can just do everything in a sari-sari store? I can just send money or remit money all over the country if I would send money, So that's one aspect that we're going to occupy the niche, and of course we're welcoming the Chinese community people. The Chinese community people in the Philippines there's a big influx of this types of community and these investors, So we are also
more techie than us?
They are very, very techie. If you look at it, if you heard of the news, there are actually where you could donate to a poor person, through just a QR code So they are very, very advanced. It's because people are accepting those types of technology, and that the government is actually very pushing for these types of technology. Well, actually, it's the technology. It's the technology and how it was actually created. Yun na yung, I think that's the most important thing of all. Any other strategy siguro is definitely the government. We have definitely government projects in place. Now our company kasi is actually involved in multiple businesses. So it can also involve to real estate, to fintech, to blockchain. So we are quite diverse in that field. What we're trying to do is the strategy that we're trying to do is really implement projects together with the government.
So kami sa Sikuna, we recognize nga that need. So what we did is we built our own proprietary platform, which is essentially crowd-powered. Pag sinabing crowd-powered, the hackers that your company could not afford to hire, they work for us, right? And then you essentially outsource the cybersecurity services sa amin. Essentially, Sikuna is a cybersecurity auditor. So we help companies with compliance. At the same time, we do vulnerability assessment and penetration testing, right? So ngayon, if sabihin natin you're a startup, and you cannot afford to hire 3 of the best hackers in the world, or 3 of whoever's at the top 10 of the world's best hackers, they're with Sikuna. So you outsource to us. The service is very, very affordable. We're launching our platform 2.0 next week. So ang mangyayari niyan, we do the VAPT, the vulnerability assessment and penetration testing, and then we submit reports to the client and the recommended course of action.
This is actually one very important small step that we need to take in order for everyone to understand ano ba talaga yung blockchain. We're very, very glad that even the financial sector in the Philippines is taking steps into becoming blockchain-based. Okay, Bitcoin, of course, kaya sumikat ang blockchain because of Bitcoin. So yung ibang tao nga, para sa kanila, Bitcoin is blockchain. Okay, very, very few people understands that blockchain is actually the very foundation of Bitcoin. Again, going back to this event, ito yung mga maliliit na event na kailangan natin para naiintindihan ng mga tao. Okay, ano ba talaga yan? Ano ba yung pinaka-foundation ng Bitcoin? Now, I think digital wallets, no ifs, no buts, that's actually going to be the future. Okay, so this early we need to understand paano gamit nun, how we can actually protect our assets, yung value nun, okay? Pero ang pinakamadali dyan, you deal only with the reputable institutions, okay? At for example, may mga bangko na ngayon, may mga Filipino banks na ngayon who's actually getting into Bitcoin, for example, okay? You deal with them. Okay. Makikita mo na ba dyan kung sino yung pinayagan ng Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas na pwede mag-deal dyan. So, just confine yourself. Nakakagulat nga maski sa mga probinsya, sa mga liblib na lugar sa probinsya, is meron na nagbebenta ng mga bitcoins doon. Sabi ko, naiintindihan kaya ng mga tao kung yung pinapasukan nila dito. So, unang-unang masasabi ko sa mga kababayan natin is alamin nyo muna kung sino yung kadil nyo, at ang pinakamadaling sigurong gawin dyan is you only transact with the people na medyo may reputation na as very, very people na may positive reputation, people and institutions na may positive. Ito yung isa sa mga bunga ng ating mga paghihirap. Of course, hindi lang naman ako yun. Marami akong hinila na may involved sa gobyerno para lang tulungan ng ang government. Kasi very, very few in government truly understand what digital economy is all about, what the fourth industrial revolution is all about, okay? And very, very few people in government actually realizes that in just 5 years from now, 10 years from, siguro mahaba na yun, okay? Everything is going to be totally different. Everything is totally different. So, saan ko ginugugol yung aking mga oras ngayon? Doon sa pagtulong sa mga dati kong kasama sa gobyerno para maintindihan nila what is going to be the future. Okay. At paano natin maiangat yung kabuhayan ng lahat ng mga Pilipino, okay, and for them to actually take advantage of the benefits of yung emerging digital economy natin.
Mga kababayan, lalo na sa mga OFWs sa Middle East at North Africa, may good news kami para sa inyo. Mapapanood na ninyo ang Net25 at iba pang Filipino channels na hatid ng OSN sa presyong abot kaya. Libre na ang box at installation, walang admin fees at no extra charges. Saktong entertainment na sakto lang sa budget mo. Bumisita na sa pinakamalapit na OSN store o dealer and subscribe now! Sa Net25 at OSN, siguradong at home ka dito.
Highlighting the relevance of emerging technologies, we are rerunning some of our conversations at the EBC Forum of Blockchain and Cryptocurrency.
The nature of blockchain appears to be consistent with our goals. We all know the following features of blockchain. It removes the middleman. And it protects the integrity of information, protects the integrity of the transaction through an information system based on consensus. It is also decentralized. It is immutable or tamper-proof because transactions in a blockchain cannot be changed without changing or affecting the values or the data in the entire chain. Transactions are also transparent. Members of the network know the transactions that are happening. These features have the capability of enabling a transparent and efficient system, and those are not diametrically opposed to the goals of the DICT. As for regulatory efforts, well, our government already has efforts that they are envisioning and also implementing in our country. Most of the efforts, however, are primarily directed at cryptocurrencies as an investment, as well as, of course, cryptocurrency exchanges. Well, for example, we have the Bangko Sentral de Pilipinas. The BSP's approach is to allow the market to develop and subsequently study it and then to issue responsive regulations and advisories. So in 2014, March, the BSP issued a warning advisory on virtual currencies, informing the public that virtual currencies are somewhat unregulated digital money that is valued subjectively according to one's ability to exchange them for goods. So, at least as to the question, for all its beneficial uses, why should we regulate blockchain? Well, the duty of government is to protect and balance different interests. As while your government is pursuing transparency and efficiency, the nature of blockchain also raises such concerns as privacy. Blockchain transactions are not totally anonymous. They are only pseudo-anonymous. Identity can still be tracked using the address to which you link it. There is also the high likelihood of unethical use. Blockchain seeks to empower, right? But again, technology is neutral. How you use it, the manner by which you use it, and the intention of your use dictates whether it's for good or for evil. Blockchain has the promise, it has the potential. And judging by the attendance of everyone here, the people are interested in its use. And the idea is for us to actually harness the beneficial nature of blockchain. If there's any takeaway we can get from the SEC, the BSP, and the CEZA example is, we embrace innovation. But as government, we have to look at it cautiously as well. Because if there is a need to regulate in order to protect the people, of course we will do that. But for now, as stated by the CEZA administrator, we have sandboxes. And we have instruments we could use, facilities that we could use to actually innovate on it.
FinTech, this is the FinTech landscape mapped across 8 categories worldwide. Okay, so you can see that there are 8 categories that affect us now: payments, insurance, planning, lending, crowdfunding, blockchain, trading, investments, data and analytics, and then security. And then we also have, of course, certain aspects of planning, lending, crowdfunding, blockchain, trading and investments, data analytics, and security intersects with securities regulation. Now, why am I in particular very focused on securities regulation? Because that's our function at the Securities and Exchange Commission. So securities, shares of stock, in theory, by law, are under our regulation, under our jurisdiction. And it is the position of the SEC, and it's also the position of the IOSCO. IOSCO is, by the way, the International Organization for Securities Commissions. So IOSCO over there. It's like the UN for securities regulators all over the world. And the position of IOSCO is that things like this are technically considered can be considered securities, and thus falling under our domain. Now, this is the basic approach of the Commission to FinTech. Because even though technologies change, but the main investor protection principles, which is our primary responsibility at the SEC, they're still there. The KYC, AML, transparency, price discovery, public disclosure, suitability, fiduciary responsibility, that's still all there. So even with the changes in the technology, even with the advances in the technology, we still have to keep up. All the basic principles are still there. And it is admittedly difficult trying to find, as my other commissioner would call it, Commissioner Amatong would call it, he calls it finding the sweet spot. Trying to find where the current system and FinTech intersect properly. So it's admittedly a bit of a challenge as it stands. These are the 3 ongoing SEC FinTech initiatives. There are 3 rules already with us. Okay, one is the crowdfunding rules, which have already applied. We issued that out early this year. And then we have the digital asset offering rules, the DAO, what we call the DAO rules, and which, by the way, is how we define all these different things: bitcoins, cryptocurrencies, all these connected assets. We are going to lump them all together and call them digital assets, and they all fall under that. So the DAO rules are supposed to define, okay, and discuss what is considered a DAO and what falls under us. Now, the digital asset exchange rules, this is even more complicated. The digital asset exchange rules are the rules on our part, if you, as a company, want to come and register with the SEC as an exchange. If you're familiar with the Philippine Stock Exchange, the Philippine Stock Exchange is our example of that. The Philippine Stock Exchange is what we call a self-regulatory organization. And I know I'm getting technical now, I'm sorry. No, but self-regulatory organization, meaning it is an exchange where items can come in between, you can buy and sell there. That is where we intend all these digital assets to be in play. Okay? As much as possible, we don't want digital assets to be sold just online. Part of our regulatory function, in which might affect a lot of your businesses, I'm sorry about that, but that's the regulatory direction we're going, is that it has to be on an exchange. Why? Because if it's on an exchange, which is a self-regulatory organization, it's easier for us in government to keep track of. It helps ensure safety for everyone, for the investors in particular. So these 2 rules, the digital asset offering and digital asset exchange rules, the DAX and DAO rules, have not yet been issued, but we're looking at issuing. We were supposed to issue that this year, but there has been some coordination issues with the final drafts with Bangko Sentral and the other financial regulators. So we're looking at that early next year. My strongest suggestion to everyone who's looking into this kind of business, you start looking at the drafts. The memorandum circular drafts are online. They're on our website, www.sec.gov.ph. I encourage you to take a quick look at them, because more or less that's the final versions. Those are the final versions already, save for some tweaking for grammar and jurisdictional issues, but more or less that's it. So I encourage you very strongly to look at it, download it, look at it, because you're going to have to comply with it if you're going to look.
Say I have a 1,000 peso bill and I want to turn it into a digital 1,000 peso bill. The problem with digital things is you can copy it so easily and you cannot distinguish the copy from the original thing. So if I have a digital 1,000 peso bill, I can make 1 million copies of that and make myself a billionaire. And then I can spend that across the internet instantly at the same time, so no one will know that I'm double spending that money. So what's our solution for that? We put a trusted third party in the middle of the transaction. And unless you've ever used Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies, I can assure you that you've never made an online transaction that there was no third party involved. To verify the transaction, to make sure there's no fraud, to prevent money laundering, prevent terrorism, protect your identity and funds. But the reality is the trusted third parties have become the central points of failure as well. So there's like a weakness in that. You have to trust that person, and history is full of breaches of that trust. So Bitcoin is not a company. A lot of people think Bitcoin has a CEO or, is owned by someone, but it's not. It's like the internet. It's just a technology that exists out there that anyone can use and anyone can tap into. It's not a product. It's actually, similar to email. Gmail is a product, Yahoo Mail, but SMTP, the underlying protocol that allows email to happen, is not a product. It's also open source software. So meaning the software is out there, anyone can review. Smartest people in the world can check it if there's any backdoor, if there's any malicious software in there. And similar to how we use Android and a lot of open source software in our technologies today, that's what Bitcoin is. And it's not an investment. This is a very common misunderstanding. People message me all the time saying, hey, you're involved in Bitcoin, right? How much is the minimum investment? It doesn't work like that. It's actually just a new form of money. And it exists in a decentralized network run by peers. So if you have a node or if you're running the Bitcoin software, meaning you have a record of all the transactions and you're syncing with all the people around the world doing the same thing. Now, a lot of people ask what gives Bitcoin value, what gives these cryptocurrencies any value. Network effects is very important. The more people it gets reached, the more people use it, the bigger it becomes, and it's like a positive feedback loop. The Lindy effect is actually states that if something lasts for a certain period of time, the likelihood of it lasting longer increases. So if something has been around for 10 years, you can kind of safely assume that it will be around for another 10. If it's been around for 20 years, then you can assume that it will be around for maybe another 30 or 40 years. So it becomes longer. And just to go back to my earlier slide, in 1998, people thought that the internet was just a fad. And that wasn't a long time ago. There's also the scarcity of Bitcoin. I didn't go into the details of it, but there's only 21 million Bitcoins. So it's very scarce, it's very limited. And that's why the more people want it, supply and demand, the price goes up. I won't go into the details as well. It's a lot of innovations happening. Just in Bitcoin alone, there's a lot of other blockchains and a lot of other technologies going on, but this is just Bitcoin, and these are just the layers, layer 2, layer 3, the different stacks, the different protocols that developers are building on top of the base layer of Bitcoin. The price of Bitcoin historically has been going up for the last 10 years, and that's because the demand has been going up. So same thing with any commodity. If more people want it, the price goes up. And for Bitcoin to be used globally in commerce, it needs to actually have a very high value.
Doing this, I'd really like to ask you, when you go away from this, think about what you want the future of the Philippines to look like. Because the initiatives that we bring to industry today and to education today will ultimately decide what the future looks like in 10, 20, 30, 50, 100 years' time. Now, diversity is really, really key for this. And to me, this is why I chose to stay in the Philippines, because I'm more excited about the kind of innovation that could happen here in a developing economy than in Australia. Sorry, Australia. Not sorry. So diversity is important because we need underrepresented and underserved communities to come to the table and develop solutions to their own problems. Now, what we're seeing, particularly in the Philippines, is someone who comes from the provinces, they might see that people in their family, they don't have a bank account. So they can't participate in the digital economy online, or perhaps they don't have the right ID documents. Now, the people who are coming up with amazing solutions to these problems, they're actually developing products that are more robust and more meaningful to more people across the world. That's why we're here talking about blockchain today. It's a technology that doesn't necessarily have to be controlled or ruled by the usual intermediaries, banks and governments. That's exciting because it can be a more inclusive technology that can include people in the system who have previously been excluded by the incumbent systems. That's really exciting because someone who really knows what it feels like to be excluded from the incumbent financial system, they can learn blockchain technology and deliver solutions that will actually allow more people to be included in the mainstream system. It's not just developing economies, it's also any kind of marginalised community. So, for example, women. Traditionally, tech, the entire sector, has been underrepresented when it comes to women. Again, the reason that's important is because women have a unique perspective. And what we want to do is make sure that we have men and women, rich and poor, young and old, all types of people at the table to be able to bring a kaleidoscope of perspectives so we can actually build far better products that will be meaningful to more people. Now, I just want to introduce one very quick thing, the idea of youth entrepreneurship. So I mentioned before that we need to get creative about what we're thinking as how we're going to build STEM skills, how we're going to build the workforce of the future and what we can do in the education system. But it's not just... let's be honest, does anybody sit there and think, oh, you know, I remember when I did that exam at school and it was just riveting, you know, it was just the greatest experience I ever had? Pfft, said no one ever. It's more about these days, we actually want kids to be able to get out there and have real experiences. Now, youth entrepreneurship is critical because it starts to develop those skills that go on top of STEM skills to create leaders. STEM skills create employable people in the future to meet the demands of the jobs of the future. 21st century skills, or they're sometimes called enterprise skills, sometimes soft skills, that's what maketh a leader. When I say 21st century skills, I mean things like adaptability. The space of technology is moving so quickly, you need to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. You need to be able to change and adapt super quickly. You need to be resilient. You need to be able to learn fast.
So, let's proceed with pattern basics. The reason kung bakit natin pinakita yun, because in trading or investing, meron tayong tinatawag na support and resistance lines. This is where the zone where the supply and demand triggers. And we are also going to discuss trend lines where by putting a simple line, you will also determine if the market is trending or not. So with identifying patterns, also with support and resistance line, meron tayong tinatawag na charting software. With charting software, there are grid lines on software na sometimes it makes your eyes delusional where your zones or area of supply and demand is. So in this case, I'm going to ask you guys, sino nagsabi dito na this is a horizontal line? Taas ang kamay. Horizontal. Is this horizontal? Sorry, is this, no, is this horizontal? Guys, nakita niyo ba yung horizontal line dito? Is it horizontal? Yes or no? Okay. Sino nagsabing yes? Nagsabing no? Sino naghihintay lang? Okay. Okay. So, When it comes to charting software, guys, meron kasing grid dun, no? And that will make your eyes, it will make your eyes more, to put it simply, it will trick your eyes. Kumbaga, isipin mo na, okay, this is, ito yung price na gusto ko bilhan, but with this charting software na meron siyang grid, it will trick your eyes. So, pag inalis natin yan, sa mga sumagot ng horizontal, yes, it is horizontal. So, that is why we want to give more emphasis on support and resistance line because once you are already in your trading software, ang titignan nyo lang guys dyan is yung green. Correct? Psychologically, it tells you, okay, buy. Tapos pag bumaba, buy. Ending, bye-bye. Right? So, now, let's identify support. When it comes to identifying support, meron tayong tinatawag na zone. And how do we define that zone is by putting a simple horizontal line that give a touches. Okay? What do you mean by touches? Ibig sabihin, pag naglagay ka ng line dito, dapat merong tatamaan ng mga candlestick. And how do we know if tama yung horizontal line na nilagay ko? By simply identifying there is a rally and retreat. May laser ba to? Or meron ba? Anyways, so here's what I'm trying to point at. So meron tayong price action dito, and as you can see, there is a rally and retreat. The price tries to go down. Okay, itong red na to. And what happened next is naging color green. Aba, magaling na, marunong na. Okay? So, bumagsak yung price dito, and what happened? Anong sunod nangyari? Nagkaroon ng color red, and then eventually nagkaroon siya ng color green. And it tries to go down, bumagsak ulit siya, and ano nangyari ulit? Okay, so that is how you define your support demand line. Okay? If the price tries to go down, and then nagbabound siya, umakit ulit siya, and once na nakita ka ng dalawang ganun, it means that is your support line. Okay? Clear? Okay, so here's the keyword or the term na kailangan nyo tandaan. It's rally and retreat. Every time the price tries to go down, okay, tatalbog ulit siya. There's a rally and retreat, rally and retreat. So how about the resistance? It's still the same concept. Pero ang pinagkaiba nito, okay, when we say resistance, it acts as your roof, okay? Because support and resistance level is like your roof and your floor. When it comes to floor, yan yung support mo. When it comes to your resistance, yan yung roof mo, okay? So with identifying trend and trend reversal, meron kasing dalawang uri ng tao sa market. We call it the trader and investor. For trader, okay, ito yung mga malilikot, okay, yung maliligalig. Most of the traders are young and aggressive and energetic. And investor, ito yung parang, they want to settle. They want less risk. They're slow. Pero, in the market, they have more funds. In this case, this is Bitcoin. Okay, yung price tries to go down, but eventually, since the green and red line agrees to each other and they are below the price, it pushes the price higher. And that is also true up to this point. And when we had this crossover, and the green line and the red line starts to agree that they have to stay above, it pushes the price below. In Tagalog, pag yung dalawang uri ng trader or investor, personality in the market, agreed that, okay, we want to sell. Okay, you will notice the price and your indicator will tell you that they are selling. So this is Ethereum Classic. That's also true with Ethereum Classic. So did it work? So this was my trade a couple of weeks. So if you're going to ask me, yung pinapakita mo sa amin ngayon, sir, pag ginawa ko yan, mag-work agad? Yes, it will work. Because, tandaan nyo guys, trading is simple. Okay? But it is not easy. It is simple, but it is not easy. That's why I always say, always advocate mastery. Because there are tons of strategy out there in the market na pwede mo makita sa YouTube. But again, you have to at least one bread and butter strategy to make it work. Okay, in my case, I've been trading for 5 years, kaya nagagawa ko to. So, if nakita kayo na isang strategy, make sure to marry that strategy. And from there, trade response.
Decentralized. Blockchain is a decentralized, meaning it's composed of peer-to-peer network of nodes without a central authority. Yan. So yun ang keyword. Decentralized is there's no central authority. It is also public, meaning every participant of a blockchain network can obtain a copy of all data in the blockchain. That's why ngayon there are blockchain phones from Samsung, from HTC, but you will need at least 500 gigabytes of memory to store all the data in the blockchain because it's about 400 gig plus right now. So it doesn't mean na meron kayong Samsung phone or HTC phone is you can store the blockchain in your phone. You still need that 500 gigabyte of, not megabyte, 500 gigabyte of storage. And the blockchain is permanent, meaning when it is recorded in the ledger, you cannot remove, you cannot delete. That's why it's called immutable. It cannot be changed. And that's also part of the security of the database. Not just being encrypted, but being immutable because all the records or all the transactions are linked. That's why it's called chain of records. And trustees. What's trustees? Trustees are the miners. So when you hear of miners, these are not the people. These are the computers that processes your transaction to generate the hash code, or what some people call the thumbprint, because it's unique in every transaction. And miners usually get paid a fee for their work. This also depends on the value of Bitcoin right now. So at the current value, $7,000, $8,000, it's not so profitable because you have to spend for electricity. But if you get free electricity, it's always profitable. But why do we have so many blockchains? Bakit hindi isa lang? I hope you can see, blockchain project ecosystem is not just in cryptocurrency. It's not just in fintech. It's also used as developer tools. Oops. It's also used for sovereignty. That's why the e-governance is also using blockchain. In the fintech world, as value exchange, as shared data, if you hear of storage or storj, it's also used for authenticity and so many other blockchain projects. So when we speak of blockchain, it's not just Bitcoin. But when you speak of Bitcoin, it is blockchain. Now, these are some of the 30 non-financial use cases of blockchain technology. So blockchain technology is not just for financial, not just for cryptocurrency. Blockchain technology can also be for authorship and ownership, for energy, reputation verification, e-voting for the government, real estate recording. So many industries are now adopting blockchain and to implement this type of solutions. Please just get a copy of the presentation so you can read all of this. Blockchain in automotive, cloud storage, credit history, cybersecurity, etc. So blockchain is not limited to, what we're saying here is blockchain is not just for cryptocurrency, blockchain is not just for financial technology.
Pangarap mo bang makapagsulat ng sarili mong kwento? Pangarap mo ba na maging direktor ng isang pelikula? O pangarap mo na maging isang artista? Let's make it real! Sali na sa aming workshops. Scriptwriting, directing, and acting. Ipakita ang talento sa gagawing guerrilla filmmaking at magkaroon ng pagkakataong manalo sa ating awards night. Kasama ang internationally acclaimed director, Direk Carlo Ortega Cuevas. EBC Films, make it real! Malapit na!
And for our term of the week, the term of the week is Bitcoin, according to bbva.com. Bitcoin is a decentralized currency, meaning it is not supervised by any authority or institution. It is not controlled by anyone in particular. That's why it's said that everyone who participates in the system controls it, and at the same time, no one does. Bitcoin is an open code and is identified through ciphered and anonymous codes instead of bills and coins. It allows all kinds of financial transactions to be registered easily in a secure environment among equals since it uses peer-to-peer technology. Blockchain was first created as a core component of Bitcoin, which made it the first digital currency to solve the double spending problem without the need of a trusted authority or central server. More and more supplies are accepting Bitcoin as a form of payment. Already all kinds of products and services can be bought with a cryptocurrency. And our word of the week is from Tom Galway, behind the hybrid IT and intelligent edge solutions. He said, "The whole is greater than the sum of the parts. For blockchain, the sum of the parts is equal to or greater than the whole for many use cases. Immediate ROI could come from the leveraging the parts instead of the whole." Thank you for watching Open for Business. Join us again in the next episodes of Open for Business for more insights from CEOs, thought leaders, and industry experts promoting business development in the Philippines. See you again every Saturday and Sunday here in Open for Business, where we discuss business information, deliver the latest business news to keep you informed and open for business and be ahead of the curve from vision to action. You're on Facebook Live on Eagle News, and you can watch this again in the video section of the Eagle News Facebook page and on eaglenewslive.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Eagle News for Open for Business. This is Cesar Vallejos. Have a great day.
The elderly undeniably serve as a significant part of society as they impart valuable knowledge and life lessons that can't be learned from school. That's why they should not be neglected and forgotten. Through EBC Cares, their societal contributions were once again recognized and their